Hey, what's going on, guys? Got a big kit to check out here for today's video, and one that I've definitely been looking forward to. It's the latest version of the Estailev here. It's the Neamhain, and this one is super cool. So this is actually going to be the third version of this kit that I'm building and reviewing and sharing with you guys here on the channel. The first two are basically just color variations. This one's another color variation, but has quite a bit more in terms of different parts and different weapons that we got with this one. Obviously, that black and gold color scheme looking super cool, very reminiscent of the Banshee, but in this case, very different in the fact that its main weapons are these big swords that it has that you can see there prominently on the box art. So we'll take a look around the box and then dive into the contents, and then we'll check out the kit itself. I'm really looking forward to checking this one out, and I really recommend that you guys check out the Estailev in any of its many variations, as it is a really cool kit here from Orange Cat Industries. Let's go ahead and get into it for today's video. So on the front of the box here, some awesome box art there with the Estelle looking very cool. I've always said Estailev because it has a V on the end, but reading the Japanese, actually it just says Estelle, so I guess maybe the V is silent. Not something that I was aware of until just now, but anyway, this is a part of their Assort assembly line, which I believe is basically just the Estailev, and then I think maybe the X-Career, if I remember correctly. I'm not sure if the X-Career is technically a part of that same line or not, but it's basically a very similar design, but just in sort of like an SD form. If you guys have not seen my multiple reviews of different X-Career model kits, definitely check those out as well, because they're super, super cool. Here on the side of the box, you can see just the same thing. It's basically in the kind of very standard master grades size box, as that's going to be about the size of this. It is going to be definitely like on the larger size when it comes to like comparing to 1/100 scale Gundam kits, like master grade kits. But whereas other releases had quite large weaponry, this one doesn't have as much in the way of like the big weaponry that the other ones had. It does have those big swords, which do look really cool here, as you can see in a couple of different action poses here on the bottom of the box, and some detail images right there. On the top of the box, you also have another look at the box art kind of here in full form. It would be really cool if this included like a poster of that or something. That would be awesome. And then over here, a line art sort of illustration of the design there as well, which looks really cool. So let's go ahead and dive in here and see what we've got inside. Right off the bat, some clear parts and effect parts, some gold parts. So we'll take a look at all the runners here in just a moment. A lot of black here, as you might imagine, and it does look to be like a very dark gray, not pure black, sort of similar to the Banshee again, but we do have some more parts in there that do look basically kind of pure black. So it looks like it's going to be like a black frame with off black armor, basically a very dark navy color for the armor. We've got some water slide decals in here as well that I want to take a look at. These are going to be mostly in white, gray, and a kind of yellow. It's not exactly gold, just a yellowish color there, so that these are able to be seen against the black or kind of almost black color armor. You do have some that have the Neamhain logo there. And yeah, those look pretty nice, definitely. Those are going to look good on the kit. That said, as for a decal guide, it looks like you don't really necessarily have one. So you're just kind of on your own in terms of where you want to place the decals around on the kit. As here on the back side of the manual, you just have a couple of reference images here just for painting, and you have the painting guide right there. But again, it's basically black for the frame, dark navy for the armor, and then a couple different shades of gold for different bits on there. You have a couple of QR codes for some more information, but some nice reference images there. On the front, cool photo of the built, painted, and decaled kit. I guess you could refer to this as to like where to put the decals, but it's only a couple of different sample images that we have for that. As even on the back inside page, there's no decal guide, just some more information, the line art illustration there once again, and then over here a guide as to where to put some of the decals, but it's really quite minimal. This is only showing you where to put a handful of the decals around on the design and then on the weapon there, but obviously we have a lot more decals than that on our decal sheet. So anyway, going back around here to the front, once again, there's our illustration, our parts list, and even though the outside page, the cover, is in like this glossy paper, all the inside paper is just kind of like more your just kind of standard non-glossy paper, which is interesting. It is all in black and white, but you do have these bits here in pink to highlight kind of these sections of the build that you need to pay attention to, where the parts attach and things like that. Otherwise, not too much to see here going throughout the manual until we get to the center page, where you do have this really nice big fold out. So I guess once you're finished with the construction, you could, with a staple remover, very carefully remove the staples and take this out and have yourself a cool cool poster. But again, this is on this just kind of regular paper. It would have been much nicer to have that center page be in this high gloss paper. Would have made for a nicer poster that you can make here out of your instruction manual, but still pretty cool. Going along to the end of the construction, we just have the assembly of the weapons, and that's about it. Now, interestingly, one other thing that we do have included in here is this little set of magnets, which in the previous releases, this was used for helping to attach the shield onto the arm, which is one thing that I didn't really like about those kits, just because it wasn't a very effective way to attach the shield onto the arm. It actually didn't really work that well. But in this case, we don't have a shield to attach onto the arm, and I'm not entirely sure why this was included at this point, but maybe once I've got the kit built up, it'll be more obvious to me. But for now, I'm not sure why that was included. We'll see. Now, as I said, the majority of the runners are either going to be in black for like the frame and mechanical bits, or in a dark navy blue. As you can see here on runner A, we have our first black runner there. Runner B as well here in black, and then runner C in navy blue for a comparison. As you can see, it's definitely a clear difference between the two, so it will definitely be noticeable on the build kit. Runner D we have 2 of, for some more parts there in black, and then runner E, some more parts there in black as well. Runner F we have 2 of, some more armor parts here in dark navy, and then just a bunch more parts here in black on runner G, which we have 1 of. Then runner H we have 2 of, for some more parts of the joints and inner frame. Runner I we have 2 of as well for a large runner there. Runner J here as well. And so far I should note all of these runners are recycled from past versions. We don't have anything new quite yet. Here's runner K. We've got 2 of those as well, as we're getting into some more of the armor parts there. But then back to black here for runner L, which we have 2 of. Runner M, some more parts here in dark navy, mostly for the head and a few other parts there. Runners Q and R here in yellow and clear orange respectively, and then runner W for our beam saber effect parts that we are, I guess, apparently going to have with this. We will see. Obviously this might be something else that I'm not entirely sure why this was included, because although the beam sabers are a cool weapon, we have our main sword weapons, which are going to be here on our new parts. So all the new parts are with runner U, U1, U2, U3, and U4. Runner U1 here in this dark navy color, we've got 2 of those. Runner U2 being basically parts there for the sword handles here in a dark gray. Runner U3 being our gold plated parts, which look really, really nice here. We've got 2 of that runner. And then lastly, runner U4 is going to be our clear red parts for the blades of the new sword weapons, and those look really awesome there as well. So, all right, very interesting. Let's get this built up and check it out. All right, guys, and here is the kit all built up. It looks awesome. I love this kit every time I build it. I'm just always so impressed by it, and I think it looks really cool in this kind of like two-tone black. It's pretty subtle between the 2 different shades, but you can definitely pick it out in the right lighting, and then obviously those gold accents look super cool on there as well. But again, definitely the major difference between this and the previous versions that we've seen is that this one doesn't really have too much in the way of weaponry, as the other ones had like the beam rifle, the bazooka, the shield, the swords. This one basically just only has the sword for the most part. We've got a couple other little bits in there, so let's go ahead and check out the accessories here first to start us off. So for our hand option parts, as you can see there, we've got closed fists there on the kit at the moment. We've got our weapon holding hands here like so, and then a set of open hands for the left and the right side here as well. But unfortunately, we don't have all the parts for these, so if you want to use these, you have to like part swap the parts from the closed fists onto here for the open hands if you want to do that. Kind of annoying, but real quick before getting to the weapons, then just on the note of leftover parts, if for whatever reason you didn't want to have these gold parts on here, you do have the original parts for the knees. Here on the back of the arm, you just basically omit that. There's no replacement part for that. For the shoulders, you have the original parts there for those shoulder bits, and then you have all the parts to make the original version of the head as well. You also have these parts here, which would attach onto the side of the backpack instead of the sword connection piece if you wanted to use those. So say, for example, you wanted to just use one of the swords on the opposite side, you could use some of your leftover parts to make this like thruster detail vent sort of part there that goes on the side of the backpack. But as for our weapons, obviously the main ones are going to be the swords there on the back, but you do have the regular kind of beam sabers here that have been featured in other versions. There's nowhere to put the handles when not in use, as those typically attach onto like the back skirt unit, which we don't have with this version of the kit. But you do have the beam effects and the handles and everything, so you can count those as weapons. Obviously the main weapons are just going to be here on the backpack, so just attached to these parts here on the side of the backpack parts there. You have the hilt, which is really cool that you can see like the orange, clear orange blade there inside there. I really like, but that is just going to come out, and it's very simple, nothing really ornate about the sword itself. You have this clear orange katana shape blade, which is really cool, and then just a simple handle, and that's really kind of about it. It does have a hole in the handle there for like firmly attaching into the hand, so it'll be a nice solid grip on that. But the kit overall is rather solid. With that, basically concluding all of our included weapons and accessories with this, unfortunately we don't have a stand, but there is a hard point up underneath the waist for plugging this onto a stand. It's just that that's going to be larger and not like a standard 3mm size. That said, this is a larger kit, being larger than what a typical 1/100 scale model kit would be like if we were comparing this to like a Gundam model kit. At about 23 centimeters in height, this is going to be comparable in size to like a larger master grade 1/100 scale model kit like the Shinanju Stein or like the Unicorn in Destroy mode, something similar in height, but this is definitely pretty bulky here, as you can see. I was hoping that maybe we could just use a regular action base and this larger peg there at the end would fit right into there. It almost does, and I feel like if you just wanted to just file that down a little bit, it would be a good fit into there. Unfortunately, it does not as it is. So that means if you want to put this up on an action base, you probably would be stuck with using one of these guys, but this also unfortunately doesn't really fit up underneath there just because the pegs that hold the legs don't fit in these grooves here. So that means our best bet, as far as I can think of, for putting this on an action base means you're going to have to use one of these clamp adapters here to just attach around the waist section. But just to briefly talk about the construction of the kit here before we check out some poses with this, you will have a couple of seam lines like here on the front of the forearm, but really not too many. As you can see, it's just very like parts dense. You have all these different parts, which makes it kind of this very detailed design. And the other good point about that is that because you have all those like different armor parts there, it kind of makes it so that just naturally you don't really have any seam lines anywhere on any parts where you normally would, like on the top of the shoulders or like on the legs here, for example. So even on the head there, with the head being quite detailed between the yellow parts, the gold parts, and the clear yellow parts in there, it's a pretty awesome looking design. And the articulation is all going to be pretty nice. Double joints in the elbow, double joints in the knee, nice separation of that knee armor there. And as you can see, the sliding gimmick of the thigh armor, just one more time here, maybe from the other side so you guys can see that. Well, when that bends, that armor slides on the front of the thigh. And the nice thing about it is that it's all really quite solid. The only thing that you might run into as like a weight issue with this kit might be if you have the leg up, because the legs are quite thick and quite heavy, it might like start to droop down over time, but it actually feels pretty solid. So I think you're probably not going to have too much issue with that. The only thing I can really remember being much of an issue, even with previous versions, was just having the shield connected to the arm, because the shield connection I always found to be a little bit weak. But with this version, not having the shield to worry about whatsoever, you kind of don't have that issue. So that said, because the other versions do kind of come with a lot of accessories, like for example the large axe here or the bazooka weapon, these from the regular version of the Estailev, if you happen to have any weapons like this that you're not using with other versions, it's all kind of the same kit, so it's all going to be compatible. You can certainly mix and match. I feel like especially this axe being molded all in black here would be a pretty good fit for this version of the kit if you wanted to mix and match some of the weapons, but that's always an option as well. But let's go ahead and try out the kit here in a few different poses now. And basically you can pretty much copy and paste what I've said about this kit in the past. I love the design, it's super cool. It doesn't have a lot of like surface detail necessarily, like panel lines and things like that, but because the armor just by its design is very like complex, having all these different like armor panels everywhere, it certainly has a very detailed look to it. And aside from just the design of the armor, I also really love the colors for this one. Like I said, that two-tone black with like the black and navy blue mixed together. It's subtle, but it's definitely noticeable and definitely helps to kind of break up the design. And it looks really, really cool there. Of course, accented with those really nice gold parts. I really like the shade of gold that they used for this one too, being a kind of pure gold, not too orange, not too like light, not too yellow kind of color. It's a really nice shade of gold here for this one. And then just aside from all that, I also just really appreciate the size of this kit. I really like the size of this just being, you know, pretty large, very comparable in size to like a 1/100 scale like Gundam model kit, but as I said, definitely on the larger end, you know, more like some of like the larger master grades. It's definitely going to be much bigger than anything like an RX-78-2 or especially like anything from like Gundam Wing or Seed or anything like that. So it would definitely stand out on like a shelf of master grade kits, for example, but it wouldn't look necessarily like too out of place or too different. I mean, it does have a pretty like close to like Gundam looking design while definitely looking a little bit different. So I mean, that said, especially every time when I build like the backpack of this kit, I always feel like it's very reminiscent of like the Shinanju, just like the shape of those like backpack, like thruster, like booster parts. So I think it'd be very interesting to have this kit and to like customize it by adding like some fuel tanks there on the back to kind of make it look even more like the Shinanju's backpack. Maybe not particularly with this version. That actually I guess would work really well with the red version of this kit, which is the only version of this kit which I've not built. I don't have that one, and I've not built it, but maybe someday in the future, if I get my hands on it, I might have to add that one to my collection just because I enjoy this kit so much. But let me know if you guys have built any version of this kit. What did you think about it? I can't imagine that anyone would have a bad experience necessarily, but let me know what you guys thought of this, or if it's one that you've been, wanting to check out for yourself. Let me know your thoughts down in the comment section below, and if you want to check out some more mecha models like this, you can check out the link in the video description to USA Gundam Store. I believe at the moment on the website we're all sold out of the black, red, and blue versions of this kit, unfortunately, but hopefully at some point maybe any of the versions might get reprinted. There's always a possibility that they'll make more versions of this kit, which I certainly wouldn't be opposed to, but definitely looking forward to some more in the future. For now, guys, thanks so much for checking out the video. Hopefully you enjoyed taking a look at this awesome kit, and as always, thanks so much for all of your support, leaving a like and making sure that you're subscribed. It really helps out a lot, and I really appreciate it, guys. Thank you all so much. Until next time, hope y'all are having a great day, and I'll see y'all later. Bye, guys.